Okay, now that we have Excel all set up to work on our devices, let's turn our attention to the task at hand, which is to create and interpret histograms using Excel. I'm just going to turn it over to my other screen here. Again, this is our goal. As I said, interpreting histograms using Excel. So I'm going to try to condense all this into one video here, talking about covering the various things that are going to be asked or should be asked while you're in Newton on this topic. One, you'll be asked to choose the correct graph for my list, comparing to what you created there in Excel. And then you'll be asked what would be the upper limit that has the greatest frequency. We'll talk about creating specific range categories, because a histogram in given increments, we'll talk about that as well, because when you, depending on what your range is or the increments you're going up there, your histogram can look quite different. So we want to be able to do what they're asking us to do there. And then also the shape. We've talked about shape before. We're just now using it from Excel. Using this information we've used before, applying Excel to answer that question. And then we'll ask, like, what would be the frequency of certain data over a given range, such as less than, greater than, or some value in between two values. We'll be sure to cover all of those in the next few minutes of this video. Okay, those things being said, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, we're going to try to split the screen this way. We can get a better idea of what we're looking at here. I want to take you through some of these files here, the problems from Newton here, some examples, and I'm going to try to cover all those variety of types of things that you will be asked, as we just talked about before. Let's take a look at this first problem here. So it's talking about Catherine, and she has we have a data usage, I guess, on her device, and she has it here in a table with the data there, or data points, and it's in megabytes. So let's see, it asks us to create a histogram of the data, and then later on it's going to ask us to pick the right one. So let's just take a look at what first thing we want to do here is get the data. There's a couple of ways to get the data. This one, downloading as a comma separated values, should take us right into Excel. There we have it has downloaded it right there. So we'll open that up. Hopefully that will open up right next to us, and it doesn't. But let's copy that, put it over there so we can see it better. One thing I like to do is I like to go ahead and get my data here, and I like to sort it. And there it is right there, sort and filter, so we can sort smallest to largest right there. So now we have it. So now that I have a pretty good idea of the layout of my data that I have right here. Some of you may be wondering, when we look over at what we have over here, okay, we got it sorted. So now we look over here, we may wonder, where are we going to start our categories to create this histogram? We want to find a nice number that makes sense to us. So you can see right here we have our 35 to 40 data. Those values would fall into that particular frequency right there. What I'm looking for, I'm looking here at the general explanation given by the textbook, by the way. But you got this one, it doesn't say, right, what increments to use or anything else about the categories, how many categories or anything like that. So just want to kind of get a feel of it. Let's go with 35 to 40. Notice what it says here, down here. We want to find the upper limits. That's what we're going to do. So, and that's the way Excel does. It doesn't do a lower and upper like we've seen before when we were doing these by hand. But anyway, we're going to start at 35. So because that's our just general rule of thumb here. So 35, and we're going to go up by 5 each time here. 45, 50, 55, 60, and I think that we do go to 71, so we'll get 65, 70, and we need a 75 as well. All right, so we're getting there for sure. So now I think I'm going to have to, again, it says to make sure your data analysis tool pack, which we should have already taken care of. So now we're going to go to the data tab, and we're going to follow these instructions right here. Okay, and I'm just going to make this larger because we're going to have to deal with what we're going to have to deal with here. So let's go to our data tab right here, our data, and we will go over to data analysis. And what we're trying to do here is get a histogram. So that's what we're going to choose, histogram. So the input range is this information, the data that we have. So we'll click here. We will highlight the data that we have. Then it has the bin range. The bin range is the upper limit, so we will highlight that information. All right. So we can put this in a variety of ways. We could have it, make it into a new worksheet, but I'm just going to put it into a particular output range here, and I'm just going to try to put it right here. We'll just try to put it right there. We want to be sure to click chart output. Otherwise, it'll just give us a frequency table. We want a histogram, so we want a chart. Let's go ahead and click OK and see how that works out. All right, so there we go. So we did get a frequency chart, and we also did get our histogram. Let's see if we can. I'm going to try to split this again here, if you'll bear with me. All right, so we got to split. So what we want to see, we're going to have to choose from these particular histograms. Notice they're really tight together. They're really nice. So, but see how these are spread out. So what we got to do is we're going to click on the chart, and we're going to right click on one of the bars, and we go scroll down to Format Data Series. And what we're going to do is just change this gap width to 0. And now we should have something similar to what we're talking about here. So you can see that has to be our chart. So that's how you create your histograms. Okay, here is our next one. It's about number of students graduating at 20 high schools. Notice what it says here. It wants us to do it in increments of 100. And then what it's asking here is, what is the upper limit of the bar with the greatest frequency? So really we're just going to look at it, find its peak. Let's take a quick look. I have already downloaded the data. We're going to do our upper limits, and looks I have already arranged my data using the sort here. It said to start at 100, but notice there is not one. It wants us to do it in increments of 100 there. So we'll just start at 200 even though we don't have one, and then we'll go to 300. Let's highlight our data, and then we need to get at least to 1100 to capture all of our data. So there are upper limits there. Data analysis, histogram, input range, bin range. Let's put it right here. We want to get the chart. There we have it. Remember, we got to clean it up a little bit here, and click on the chart, click on one of the bars, right click, format data series, change the gap width to 0, and then there we have it. It wants to know the the upper limit that has the greatest frequency. That would be the height of the histogram, and that appears to be at 700. And looks like if we zoom in there, you can see the value is 5 there. So that's our upper limit. Let's double check, and then here is our correct answer of 700. Okay, to kind of make a long story short here, I already did this one about the auto parts store, how many miles that the customer's driven. I already got the histogram. What I wanted to point out is that some of these questions are going to ask you for the shape. Notice that it is skewed to the right. See where the tail is? It's skewed to the right. Then it also talks about the median is between 50 and 100 miles, or 100 and 150 miles. So let's obviously we can kind of look at this and see the height of it, but let's take another look at this and point out we can also use our data analysis here, and we can get descriptive statistics, and we want to do our input range, which is our data here, and we'll put it right there. We want summary statistics. We'll click OK, and notice that it does give our median as 77, which is between 50 and 100. So we can. Alright, so I wanted to take a look at a couple more variations of the same type of problem. Once again, I got the histogram going. Notice what this one is asking. It's asking for a few other things. Remember, we talked about shape, but again, you can see we have a right skewed graph, but then also it starts talking about the median and the mode. That information can also be obtained using our data, again, data analysis, and using the descriptive statistics choice there. We'll get our input range, which is our data. Output range, let's put it right there where my block is, and then we want summary statistics. We will click OK. There you see, here we have the mode is 1 and the median is 1.5. And here we have it, median of 1.5, mode of 1, right, which is the correct answer. Okay, here is another example. Visitors at a hospital for 20 days. I went ahead and put my data in, created my histogram, and the beauty of it, the histogram can answer a lot of our questions, but also this frequency table that it creates when it does a histogram can also answer our questions. Notice what this particular question is asking. It's how many days were there between 30 and 40 visitors. So to understand what we're talking, remember we were talking about upper limits here, upper limits. So between 30 and 40 is, notice that 30 is the upper limit, right? 30 is the upper limit. There's the upper limit for that is 10. The upper limit at that checkpoint is 20. Upper limit for that is 30. So what we're talking about is between 30 and 40. So what we're talking about is this particular frequency or bar we're talking about here. And notice that if we zoom in, notice that the value is 6. We can also look at it over here, because we know that's greater than 30 and less than 40, right? So here we have a 6 as well. So there are other questions in there that say less than a certain value. So again, like if you were saying less than 40, so we're concerned with these right here. Let's copy those, and then we'll place them over here. And here's another nice one here, is the sum function in Excel. And then we have, so 19 less than that. I'll show you one more example of that particular situation here in a moment. Okay, we're looking at another one. We're talking about temperatures in Fahrenheit. And we've got, once again, we've created it all here. But notice what is being asked for how many, these are days of the days that had these particular temperatures, right? How many days was the difference between the high temperature and the low temperature greater than 30 degrees? But no more than 40, right? Because we're talking about differences in temperatures, okay, throughout the day. So 30, so this says greater than 30. So 30, right, is our upper value right here. 40 is our upper value right here. So greater than 30, but no more than 40 is this particular bar right here. If you look very closely, notice it says value 6. We can also look at our frequency table right here, and there it is as well. So a lot of ways to go about doing these types of problems.